All right. Now let's talk about short-term rentals and how they relate to the budget. So in 2020, I proposed and the town adopted the 2021 annual meeting, raising the occupancy tax from 4% to 6%. We could have done that in 2009. And in fact, I went back and analyzed the receipts from 2009 to 2022 when basically the end of 2021 when the 4 to 6% raise went into effect. And the town left about 2.4 million, 2 million to 2.4 million on the table by not raising the percentage of local revenue from the occupancy tax from 4 to 6%. Okay, that's 2.4 million across roughly 1,600 houses in town. It's roughly $1,500 a person we left on the table. Past is the past. We fixed the problem, and now the money that we get from occupancy tax offsets the money that we need to raise from property taxes. I think that's a good thing, and that is something that everybody benefits from who owns property, whether they're full-time resident or part-time resident or whatever you want to call it. All right. So why does that especially make sense now? Well, because of this trend toward short-term rentals. You know, platforms like Airbnb and VRBO, they allow folks to rent a property out. In exchange for that, the town not only gets the property tax from that property, it also gets rental occupancy tax from that property. Now, short-term rentals in this area are going around $300 a night. And one of the reasons why I encourage Tanglewood to acknowledge that it is in Stockbridge rather than having a Lennox address is it actually had an impact on the rate that folks can charge for rooms. All right, rooms in Lennox are running up for a higher amount than rooms in Stockbridge, and that impacts not only what folks can make who rent out part of their home or second home on their home, it's called an EDU, but it also generates more money for the town, which I think is a good thing. All right, so on a running rate, I'm estimating that revenue from the occupancy tax and meals tax together are generating around $800,000 a year now that we're at 6%. That's a good thing. That's about, 7% of the budget. All right? And that's going to increase. But it can increase at a cost. Let's face it. Sometimes folks who are absentee landlords, who are just on buy a property, don't really care about what goes on in that property. They might advertise it for more people than it can handle. They might overtax the sewer system if they're on town sewer, or especially the septic system if they're on town septic. And they want to obviously maximize the amount of money they're getting if they're an absentee landlord. Now, in some ways, short-term rentals provide an opportunity for us to meet one of the foundational goals I had when I ran, which is to encourage more young people to be able to afford to live in this town and raise their family here. And so if we have somebody who's living on the property and who can do what's called an ADU or accessory dwelling unit, it's a fancy name for basically an apartment above the garage or apartment in a smaller house that might be on the property. Those folks make great landlords for short-term rentals because they're not going to let the folks who rent from them abuse the property or stay up all night or run big parties or whatever. And when short-term rentals are going for around $300 a bedroom per night, it generates the kind of money that people need to be able to afford what's becoming very unaffordable housing in the town of Stockbridge. So to afford a house assessed at the median, which is around $600,000 or $620,000, that's a pretty big mortgage for a family. But if you've got some revenue coming from your rental that might be on property, that makes that house more affordable. And it's a formula that over and over again the Berkshires people have used to make homes more affordable to younger homeowners to be able to afford to live in our towns. So, how do we make that even easier? Well, one, we should make easy to adopt. And the second thing we might want to consider is encouraging ADUs because of the benefit they have to home affordability for people who live here, but to limit the number of rentals that one property can have to one. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want people renting out both an ADU and the primary house on the property at one time. Because all that does is it makes what relatively little housing stock that we have for families potentially buying in the future, it limits that even more because the economics of having two rentals on one property make it that much more attractive to absentee landlords to basically buy those units. So looking at short-term rentals, we've got the benefit of short-term rentals, which is not only do you get the property tax, but you also get the 6% local occupancy tax. You've got a challenge for short-term rentals where you really don't want to necessarily encourage a whole lot of our housing stock to be bought by absentee landlords. And you've got an easy solution, which is encourage accessory dwelling units and allow only one rental at any given time per property. I think it's a reasonable way for us to take advantage of this trend towards short-term rentals in a way that does not impact the quality of life in our neighborhoods, and in a way that encourages and gives actually a bit of a financial advantage, if you will, to young people who might want to consider living in a town like Stockbridge and who otherwise can afford it. So